Our beginning session 2, the parent breakout module on mental health.
Okay.
What?
Come over.
Page 95.
Oh, yeah.
So we come back with fresh minds after tea. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. So now the sense of communication. The last time was sense. So a good communication, a bad communication. So one between the two. So as well as emphasize it as communication, it's very good. In that I know a relationship between umzali.
It's when I'm going to have tea during the session, or
No.
it's just at the
No,
end.
we just had tea. No, you're not having tea.
Okay.
The moonlight is continuing.
Okay, this is like
Yeah.
break back from the tea. So
No, moonlight is just continuing.
And make you prepare that.
Oh, you
Yeah,
preparing
you
us.
must be ready. So yeah. So this is about communication as well as each other. So communication, it's very important if we fit mentally. You see, because if we fit, then communication is about right. So if parents see a challenge with communication, they're stressed. So when you're stressed, which means the communication is right. So you challenge about so what session sifuna ubonakala sinoba kubalulekile loba sizigcine sizikhathalele ngokwasengqondweni so sibe ne-mental health so esixhosa kuthiwa impilo ntle yeah so kufuneka sihlale sizigcinile sinjalo sisazana so ndizawucela ukunike ngoku from kwi-understanding yenu nindazise into yoba xa kuthethwa ngempilo ntle yengqondo kuthethwa ngantoni after hayi unempilo ntle mental health what is mental health so kuthethwa ngantoni
Ndicinga ukuxa uphetheke kahle onwabile.
so konwaba
Abazali bakho bengakusha. It's very important.
It is hard.
konwaba
Xa ukwazi ukuzenzela i-decisions ezihealthy.
izigqibo ezizizo
Ukwazi.
yeah so funeka prepared about whatever bayithethayo funeka niyibhale phantsi zikhalane message yeah so that's like more
Xa une-friends like socializing.
okay so uthetha nabahlobo so nithetha ntoni nabahlobo umzekelo xa ungumntu onempilo ntle
Uyathetha ngeengxaki zakho nazo. Khona ukuze zingahlali kuwe ngaphakathi. Kuba ke uziphathe kakubi.
so ezinye izinto umntu onempilo ntle yengqondo kulula into yoba azazi into yoba ugood entweni because uphila engqondweni so we understand so i-abilities zakho okay mna ndi-good kule nto because unempilo ntle yengqondo so uyakwazi ucopa ne-normal stress so ayazi uba funeka enze ntoni xa engumntu one-stress so uba ngumntu productive xa esenzile because mentally fit, so uba productive ke ngoku wenza loo nto. Une-contribution enkulu kwi-community because ingqondo yakhe irayithi, so uba negalelo elikhulu elenzayo. So uyakwazi even nosolve ii-problems elifini yakho, xa une-problems uyakwazi uzisolva.
uba negalelo like elirayithi kubantu asecankwabo.
Yeah.
Because mhlawumbi ufuhlelwe nomntu osonestress, mhlawumbi ukuba negative indlela abona ngayo ilizwe. Like xa unengqondo esempilweni like uba positive, even if itshomi yakho mhlawumbi isengxakini okanye iphethwe kakubi loo nto, uyakwazi umcebisa because like ingqondo yakho isempilweni.
So uyanceda ekuhlaleni. So now asithetha nge-good mental health, so sithetha ngempilo entle yengqondo, so uba ne-confidence, so uyazazi into yoba mna ndiphilile ke ngoku, so uyakwazi uzidla, ngoba besitshilo ube productive, ukwazi nokukhathalela abantwana bakho. So each and every time besiza nee-problems, kulula umamela abantwana, then ke ngoku nikwazi usolve i-problem eza nayo. So but xa stressed, so awuzukwazi unantsika. So abazali ke ngoku so the first thing endiyilibele yintoba this part it's only for parents, mental health.
Okay.
It's only for parents. So now
So glad.
sibreakile, so ii-teams zikwelaa cala kwenye room zibhizi ne-facilitator that side, benza a total different thing
Okay.
le yenziwa zi-parents. So parents, the mental health is strictly for parents only. So nayithatha kulaa phase yoba it's parents here, then abantwana kwelaa cala. Yeah. So kubalulekile ngoku abazali ikwazi uexplain into kwi-mental health yinto nabo baze nayo, then ke ngoku nizokwazi ngoba xa kufika abantwana idibane khona iqala khona ngoba uxele intoba uthetha ngantoni. So asithetha nge-good mental health, you must have a healthy body, so physically you must be healthy, plus the healthy apha engqondweni, then it's equal to healthy individual. So you will see manually it's khona loo nto leyo. So now it's good mental health ke xa uyaqonda. So abazali funeka beyibonile into yoba funeka ube njani xa une-good mental health, so funeka ube njani ngolu hlobo. Yeah. On the other side, sibe ne-poor mental health. Sometimes siyathetha ngezinto ukugula ngengqondo. So funeka ubabuzile abazali uba sithetha ngantoni xa sithetha ngokugula ngengqondo. Andithi besithethe ngempilo entle yengqondo, which means mental health. So sithetha nge-mental illness. So xa kuthethwa ngayo zintoni naselokishini ke niyazazi akhona amagama abizwa ngabantu bakuthi hayi xa igula nengqondo kuthiwa umntu utheni.
Bathi mhlawumbi uyaqeqa, uyathandaza.
Phambi
Ubigezi.
khona amanye amagama.
Ubigezi.
So kuthiwa mhlawumbi kuthiwa ndithutywa ezinye zithi dadobawo.
Winky.
They're crazy.
Okanye kuthiwa i-network ilahlekile. Yeah. Okanye ne-cassette iqhawukile.
So guys, on Friday, we'll talk about the signs of depression. You need that background as interventionists to
Yeah.
answer questions. So we'll talk about that on Friday.
Yeah. So sometimes abanye kuthiwa kuthiwa unamafufunyana mhlawumbi. Kuthiwa uthwentshule amafufunyana. So ngaloo magama ke lawo kubizwa ngayo i-mental illness. But okubalulekileyo i-mental illness, it's like any other physical illness. But it's what is important. Ifana naziphi izigulo. Like i-flu, or i-diabetes, or i-blood pressure. So ifana nazo nayo. So umuntu onayo akwahlukanga kubantu abanezinto ezinjalo. So iyashiyana ke i-mental illness, because sometimes ngoku umuntu ene-depression elokishini kuthiwa hayi une-stress or i-depression. So ezo zinto ke zinto ezohlukile, i-depression ne-stress. So these are the two different things. Yeah. Also is the mental illness. So that's why it's in a spectrum. It's a spectrum. So as you see, so the minor is the stress, the bad mood, grief. Then it's moderate, depression, anxiety, drugs or alcohol. Then you be severe, suicidal, which means this one, say it's very bad. You need, but what I like, zone is you need family support. Each and every, even minor, you need a family support. And moderate, you need a doctor and a nurse in a community, maybe in a community clinic. Need a doctor or nurse, but family always there to support. They must be there to support you. This one, you need a specialist. You are in a high risk. Yeah, so so we call it phezulu.
So facilitator, where does schizophrenia? Everyone thinks everyone has schizophrenia. Where is that on the mental health spectrum? Schizophrenia would be.
So when you have schizophrenia, which means you are in a severe on the spectrum, so it's you would really need a special doctor to deal with that. It's very even suicidal, psychosis, bipolar, schizophrenia, so they are very severe illnesses.
Can I ask schizophrenia? What is it?
Right, so Friday, we're gonna talk all about this in depth, because you actually need that background to know
Yeah.
how to explain this.
Okay.
So Friday, we're gonna do training on mental health, we're gonna do training on HIV.
Yeah, 'cause we're gonna get
Exactly.
solutions.
So I'm gonna talk about that on Friday.
Yeah. So most of the time, iba always stress, always even here, people they call it stress, like the depression, anxiety, even here they always call it stress. So stress, yalawuleka stress,
Yeah.
ne-bad mood, ne-grief, so zinto ezilawulekayo ezi. Then ezi zilead to doctor, ne-community, mhlawumbi onesi, i-community, but these ones specialists. I-symptoms ze-mental, because sometimes abantu bayathi athi emntwini ahamba ajonge umntu athi hayi une-depression. So i-depression ine-symptoms. So zikhona izinto funeka uziqwalasele emntwini uba wenza ntoni lo mntu, then ke ngoku because sometimes akukho mandi loku diagnose umntu uthi hayi une-depression. So ndivile phaa ngoku esifundiswa uba hayi ndiyakubona ne-depression. So kulula into yoba at least umadvise umntu into yoba ubone udokta. Ukuthi kuyithethe nje kakuhle uba funeka uyobona udokta then ke ngoku. But kubalulekile into yoba sizijonge ezi symptoms. So zintoni ezenzekayo xa umntu ene-mental illness, xa umntu engekho right engqondweni, kwenzeka
into ezirongo ezenzekayo
benza ntoni xa engekho right mentally?
Homeless or some of them. Oh my God, I don't know where's your home, don't know. Some of them.
So I'm asking them, so what happens when someone...
Yeah, and so you're describing actually symptoms of somebody
Yeah.
who's really severely ill, like schizophrenia,
Mm.
but that's all part of the discussion.
Yeah.
So you would take that and then Maliki would be like, you'll get training on what mental illness is. You're like, actually, you're right, that is a sign of mental illness, but that's actually symptoms of somebody who's like actually really sick. What we're focusing on is something called depression. So sometimes they won't know. Let's keep going. Let's keep going the discussion like you are. Keep eliciting, and he'll explain it.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay, so zeziphi ezinye xa kuthetha kokwenzeka ntoni ayingaphilanga nomntu?
awumina konwaba nixhawaphilanga nomuntu into yona abantu around bona konwabisa because mhlawumbi banezanto zezadeva mhlawumbi ubani uve ushawutise for no reason.
Yeah.
And
Okay, yeah. Okay. So mental illness, so it's a combination symptoms. I was one symptom one, then could be depressed. So it's a combination. So the symptoms. Ezidibanayo. It depends on the type. Because we have types is the mental illness. So complicated by age leonayo. So umzekelo sine physical mental illness physical umzekelo ifana noba benesiso esibuhlungu okanye mhlawumbi uzive utired physically ke leyo ibekho i-feeling so imvakalelo so uzive usad fumanise uhleli nje uguilty awunathemba hopeless then kwicala lokucinga thinking so fumanise into yoba ku-difficult for uconcentrate ukwazi uconcentrate uyaphazamiseka kunzima ukuthatha ii-decisions ezirayithi uhleli nje newari awonwabanga kwicala le-behavior ufumanise uhleli nje uyakhala awufuna uhlamba uhlale nje sometimes uyazikhetha ufuna uzivalela awufuna udibana nabanye abantu sometimes uhleli nje uyashawuta ushawutise nje espacing so uhlele ngumuntu onjani. Yeah. So eyokugqibela ke ngoku ibe yobona imagination. So there is part imagination, so it's sort of so imagine izinto ke ngoku uyaboniswa ke ngoku, so which means so kula phase into yoba mawuncedwe sometimes uve voices abantu bayathetha ngelo xesha bathetha abantu okanye mhlawumbi ubona into ezingabonwanga ngabantu so uyanyanzeleka into yoba ke ngoku udibane ne-specialist apha.
Do you need help?
Yeah.
So what Mulaki's explaining now is that people in the community observe lots of different types of symptoms of mental illness. Not all of them are the same thing. People who are seeing voices and like paranoid, we're not doctors, we're not meant to go and diagnose, but those are often signs of really severe mental illnesses such as schizophrenia. What we're focusing on is this thing called depression because that's so common in our communities. And it's not the same thing as like being sad. Like if for example, maybe I've lost my job and I'm very sad. And that's a normal reaction. That's not mental illness. It's just if I'm sad all the time. It's like I can't bounce back from that. That might be a sign of depression, which might, at least if I can recognize that, then I can go and look for help. So what this session is it's not meant to get people to dive into all the mental illness out there. Remember that families coming into this study have symptoms of depression. but they're not at the clinical level. So everyone that you have in the room there, especially the teens in the room have some symptoms of depression. So when you're talking about this with parents, what they'll begin to think is, oh my gosh, actually, I might recognize those signs in my teen. And if they get worse or they persist, they're there all the time, now I know this is this thing called depression and I should go get them help. So that's the context of this session. Remember, parents who are eligible for this program, they will not have depression that is at the crisis level. They will be sent for help. But also, parents who are in the room with you might have some symptoms of depression or no symptoms. We're allowing parents that are healthy with some and also with some symptoms, but the ones that are in crisis are being referred to services before they get to you guys. But the reason why this discussion is important is because honestly, they're going to see that that's how their teens are acting, and they'll know to watch for it. They'll maybe even recognize the symptoms in themselves, and they'll know what that is called now, and they'll know what to do. So that's the context for this session. So like you're going to get a lot of questions from them probably, like, I'm afraid, am I schizophrenic? And you just need to know enough to be like, no.
Okay.
Or enough to say, like, if you are experiencing paranoia, you should go get help.
Yeah.
So Friday's training is meant to prepare you with that background information. But it's good to know that these questions are coming from families who are probably experiencing some of these things. Helpful, Malaki?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah. We'll spend our time now talking about other type of depression, other type of mental health depression. So focus on depression.
Okay.
Yeah. So depression, ekhoyo ekuhlaleni, although abantu bengayi-understand, but into esijongene nayo in our communities, depression ikhona. So ingaba mhlawumbi kubantu abayi-10, ndicinga uba kwabantu bayi-10 eSouth Africa inoba bangaphi abantu abane-depression okanye manje ekuhlaleni, masiqale ekuhlaleni, xa ndicinga ekuhlaleni kubantu abayi-10 inoba bangaphi abane-depression.
Abangakanani kuqala age group?
That's any, because depression and cater in age.
So we'll talk about the signs of that on Friday.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is normalize it. So basically everyone in that room is at risk for depression. So we're trying to be like, look, it's common in South Africa.
Yeah.
Up to 3 people out of 10 have it. And we'll talk about the science on Friday, but kids at this age group also are experiencing depression at a really high rate. So that stat applies to everyone.
Yeah. So out of 10, 3 are depression. So depression is something ekhoyo. So mhlawumbi ndicinga uba zintoni ezibangela uba abantu babe depressed. Depression enza ilidishe to depression in our communities. Zintoni ezibangela uba if our families zizive zi-depressed, zi-experience depression. Unemployment, yeah.
Unemployment, something related to poverty. Mhlawumbe umzekelo ngumuntu ongumzali unemployed, uyasokola endlini. Kunzima uprovide abantwana baya esikoleni bengatyanga, yabona into ezinjalo.
Feeling like we have no future.
Yeah.
Trying this, nothing is working.
Hopelessness.
And then you can remind them of session 1. Remember, that's why we spend all this time talking about how our futures can be bright, how we can help our teens with their futures. So it all relates.
Yeah. Transition.
I was saying
Abuse.
Yeah.
HIV,
Exactly.
TB, being sick.
And just the environment, your surroundings.
It can feel rough out there.
Exactly, especially as women or the young girls. When they watch on TV, they want to be like this one and they can't afford such things. So you tell them to like yourself, blah, 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 those things. I think most girls are facing depression. Seriously.
Yeah.
So confidence is too low. Yeah.
As you said about the environment, maybe it was a crime, like
Exactly.
you can lead us, our families, with depression, rape, even the drug use.
Yeah.
Maybe umzali unomntana usebenzisa drugs. Yeah, so we can.
And also depression can lead to those things. So like if you're not
Exactly.
feeling good, you know, you might want to drink. You might want to do drugs because you don't feel good.
Yeah, yeah. So in other words, in depression, it's very serious. It's very serious, and it can destroy communication. When by depression is there, which means there's no communication because you're depressed. Yeah. So it's very important to know what are we talking about. So suppose about what is depression. So you combine with depression.
Oh, yes, suppose.
Yeah. So you combine depression. Because it's what we then science are with families, they understand the depression. And some doesn't experiences what they think is depression. So as Caroline was explained earlier, that depression is not just being sad today and then you're better tomorrow. Depression is a continuous behavior, like you feel sad most of the time.
It's like the world can be gray and rainy and full of clouds. That's what your world feels like when you're depressed. But it's not a rainstorm that's there one day. It's like a rainstorm that's there like every day for at least 2 weeks or more. And we'll talk about it on Friday, but depression is episodic. So often if you have depression, it's a chronic thing. So like you might have periods of your life where you're depressed and then you might have periods where you're ready, but it often will come back into your life. But the key thing to it, it's like being in your world is like a cloudy, rainy place all the time. That's what it feels like.
So you say, I'm not gonna understand this. Let's just say you for a month, you're not yourself. We just put it like that.
So the best way to think about it, so this is all part of the facilitation and learning. So Mulek is now going to explain.
Yeah.
This is what depression is. So he's going to do it in his language so you understand. I think you should get it for the facilitator.
Yeah.
They'll answer those questions.
Yeah.
They'll say how long, what symptoms. He's going to explain it now.
Okay. Let's just go straight
Yeah.
to the symptoms.
Okay.
So depression yenzeka kwizinto ezi-5 or more. The symptoms ezi-5 or more.
Okay.
Yeah. So ezi zilandelayo izazibizi.
Okay.
They must be major kwezo symptoms ezi zilandelayo. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, mhlawumbi enye yezi ziyi-2, if not 2. If mhlawumbi ayizozo yi-2, enye yazo. Umzekelo ufumanisa uba you're feeling sad, uzive unomoya uphansi amaxesha amaninzi, so which means almost every day you feel down. Or sometimes ufumanisa uba uya abantwaneni ufumanisa umntana uyakhala ixesha elininzi, usoloko ekhala. Omnye unemood irritator-ayo, ufumanisa uba uyadikwa lonke ixesha. Omnye ufumanisa izinto ebeqhela uzenza azithandayo azi-enjoyayo akasazenzi anymore ezimonwabisayo, avele mhlawumbi i-activity, mhlawumbi if ebethanda udlala ibhola mhlawumbi mntana ufumanisa uba akasayi nakwezotshomi zakhe, akasayi nasebholeni, behlela apha endlini. So uyeka izinto ukuzithanda. So ezi ziyi-2, one of those, between one of ezi zinto zilapha zimbini funeka zibe yi-major.
Okay.
Yeah. So ezinye ke ezinovela as follows, njengoba ufumanisa uba ulose weight, appetite yakho ingabikho right. Sometimes abanye batya kakhulu xa ine-depression, utya kakhulu, abanye batya kancinci. Then ufumanisa uba ulala kancinci okanye ulala kakhulu. So i-depression leyo. So ayithi xa ulala kakhulu u-depressed, then xa ungalali kakhulu awurayithi uphilile. Sometimes asiyiqapheli ungalali.
Just to be normal.
Yeah. So sometimes usenolala kakhulu, usenolala kancinci, so zizo zombini. So as babe sitshilo ke ekuqaleni ufumanisa uba ngumntu osobeshawutisa ke lo xesha njalo. So udiniwe, exhaust, so uqina yonke into afuna uyenza, ufuna uhlala phantsi, uzibona ungabalulekanga. Ufumanisa uba yanaxabiso. Useless, uzibuza uba ndi-useless, akhona noyenza. So unikezele kwinto yonke. As babe sitshilo ngoku into ufumanisa uba uyaphazamiseka uconcentrate, yonke into oyicingayo ikhawuleze ihambe. Awukwazi ubeka ingqondo kwinto oyenzayo, ulibala msinyane. Zonke into ozenzayo uyazilibala. Then usoyichazile ngokanye ube hopeless. So ufumanisa uba hayi nathemba. Once ufike hopeless, which means you can commit suicide. So you don't see a point to live. So ungakwazi uzibulala ke.
We're going to give you training on how to deal with suicide, disclosures in the intervention. If someone says that, there's a way to respond. We're going to train you, and that is part of the training.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. So enye eyobonisa i-depression is i-thermometer. And it's into ebonisa into depression. If uyambona lo muntu la ncumile, it's a face of a smiley face on top. So lo lapha izantsi uyalila, is crying at the bottom. So umuntu o-depression ixesha elininzi i-level yakhe isoloko ilapha, which means ayisondeli apha kweli cala loba ube happy, isoloko usad, yonke into yakho ayihambi kakuhle. So zinto ezinjalo. So same applies ne-mood ke ngoku. Njengoba sisitshilo le. So i-health mood yile lapha phezulu. So umuntu one-depression ke ufumanisa uba wonwaba kancinci ixesha elininzi, soloko engavi kamnandi. So long ixesha, so uba njalo lo mntu, so imaholo hlobo. So enye i-symptoms ze-depression with-children, sometimes it's about different in two ways kune-adult. So ufumanisa uba umntana yena endaweni uba abe sad, for example, ufumanisa uba negative, angafuni ukwenza izinto. Ufumanisa uba uthetha into angayi-understandi ngale ndlela uthetha ngayo, understand differently. Sometimes ufumana soloko ecomplaina ngoba akafili kamandi, uyagula, soloko esithi I'm feeling sick. So all the time soloko ekhalaza ngaloo nto. Soloko esikolweni, umntana soloko in trouble at school, child soloko in trouble, or is fighting with other kids, is not doing well at school. So zezo zinto zinjalo ke ezenzekayo emntaneni. So emntaneni kufuneka ke ezo nto zenzeke i-period xa umqaphela ufumanisa wenzeka i-period ye-2 weeks umntana. Ufumanisa uba often soloko zisenzeka izinto, so umzali funeka ziqaphele ezo zinto. So xa ujonga phaa kwimanyuwali kuthiwa abantwana age of 13 to 15 baseriskini. I-risk yoba babe ne-depression. Yeah. So that those ages iseriskini yaloo nto leyo. I think now.
When we see children act out like this, we need to ask, are you okay?
Yeah.
What is going on? Because remember who's in the room? Their kids will be doing this.
Yeah.
So you have to say to them, when we see our kids doing this, as parents, you should ask, are you okay? What is going on? That's why that's in red for you to say that. That has to be consistently delivered every session.
Yeah. So it's difficult, this one. It's black and white.
Yes, so it's going to be printed in color,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's why I give you guys the color one too, to look at, to share.
Yeah. So the red ones, these are there, so you must say it's the red ones.
The way you can tell in black and white too is that the red is bold in black, and then the directions to you are in italics, the slanted letters. So that's also how you can tell if there's a black and white version.
Yeah, they most,
Oh, darker.
the ones that are yours most of the time are blue in color.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
So depression inokwenza abantwana bathathe wrong decisions as they depressed. Bathathe decisions wrong, or to have a partner, to have sex, that's the alcohol or drugs. So abantwana abadepressed end up with the senses ezinjalo. So as Caroline betshilo, depression in episodes, but she will explain maybe on Friday about the episodes, the depression. I think I must go to a risk for depression. Yeah. So with depression, yes, it's called as specific, it's called as non-specific. So in depression, it can be a family history.
Sure.
Even myself was surprised like you that depression is a family history. So, senowenza into yoba xa ikhona apha efemelini izawuqhubeka khona izawuphuma nayo like i-diabetes. If one of the family member maybe one of the family members iphinde zibe nayo the prior history. I think this one was also difficult for us. The third one, the chemical imbalance.
Yeah. So it's so hard to explain that, but
Yeah.
basically, our blood is made up. Our body is made up of different things. Like, for example, we have iodine. That's like a mineral in our blood. We have these potassium that like helps our bodies operate. I think number 3 can be hard to explain. We can practice in your language, but basically, your body is made of different types of substances, and if those substances are off balance, that can help depression take root. We can practice or talk about Friday how we want to explain that. Okay. Good. Keep on going, Maleki.
Okay. So, enye into ke evezayo kwa i-gender. Kuthiwa ke oomama ke ngabona base-chances zokuba babe depressed kunotata. Ngenxa yee-hormones. So i-hormones are different. So
Makes sense. Too emotional.
Women have a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
They experience a lot of violence. There's a lot of reasons for it.
A lot of responsibility.
A lot of responsibility. That's all contributes to it.
Sometimes women can also play a fatherly role. So sometimes not to know. So that's why it was a school pass. Into a substance abuse. Also, as we call drugs, there's the symptoms, negative thoughts. Once by Agasa, confidence, once by Agasa team. So, in non-specific, major life challenges, like Caroline mentioned, HIV, TB, cancer, unemployment. I think when you mentioned unemployment, the breakup. I think other people affected by breakups, the families, the traumatic events, stress.
So like what with this recent story now of a woman who just killed herself, the student. So
That's
she
right.
didn't mention that depression was the rape happened like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And she never like
Yeah, so that's a perfect segue. So in the next question, Mulaki is going to ask the group, what are some things that happen in this community that can contribute to it? And that's where a lot of that comes out.
Yeah.
Rape, violence, and the group gets to talk about it, right? That's good. So let's move on to the next part, question 7. Do you have questions about? So basically we talk about the community factors that lead to depression. The group starts talking about it.
Yeah.
And then Mulaki's like, that was a lot of information I gave you, but don't worry, you don't have to remember it all. It's in your session 2 booklet. Let me give this to you.
Yeah.
And then here, inside. All of it is here. If you want to think about it more tonight and read more about it, it's all here in session 2. Let's open that up and see where that is. And then it's very important, session 2. Maybe you're feeling really sad and you come in crisis or know someone in crisis. Look inside the booklet. You can call the suicide helpline. I want to point that out to these families. Okay, right guys? So this is where you bring out the booklet and you show them. Okay, good. Mulaki, can you move on?
Okay.
So then you asked about questions, right?
Yeah. Okay. So now I'm telling you, was is the factors kwezi sendizimentionile amasikuzo.
Yeah, we've done this, and then we hand out the booklet.
Yeah.
And that one.
This one. Okay. And then question elandelayo was about that was khona nezinye questions mhlawumbe ninazo about depression or risk factors of depression.
So pretty much what happens here is that people ask tons of questions. And that's what training will help you with on Friday.
Yeah.
But then there's a little cheat sheet here. So like people are like, well, what's schizophrenia? And you're like, well, schizophrenia is this. What's anxiety? What anxiety is this? So those are the questions that you can expect, and there's a little cheat sheet here to help you answer that.
Yeah.
Yeah? Are we good?
Yeah.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Yes, yes.
So that's this one.
Your colleague will take notes. We're gonna break for lunch in like 35 minutes. So the next bit, so I want us to demonstrate some of this next bit, and you'll see it again, but basically the next bit is getting getting parents to recognize that they might be experiencing symptoms, and so might their kids. Again, thinking about who's in the room and who's been recruited into the study. And getting it to be destigmatized.
Yeah.
So basically, Mulaki is transitioning to give them a message of hope. If you have depression or your family has it, this is what you can do.
Yeah. So I think it's also important to that question said, if a parent is depressed, will the child be depressed too?
Yeah,
so-
that's a question that comes.
Yeah.
So let me just answer that because we get that question a lot. Nothing is a guarantee. The reason you're here with us today is because we want you to be able to understand what this is if you see signs of it and get help early. So just because your family has depression doesn't mean you'll have it. Just because you have depression doesn't mean your child will have it. Just because your child has depression doesn't mean you will have it. But knowledge is power. We're telling you this so that if you see signs that this is happening, you can go get help for your child or yourself early and often so that you don't have to end up in crisis. That's the answer we give them. That's a question they'll definitely ask you guys.
So it's important that abantu bayazi uba depression is not the end. You can get better than depression. So there are 5 things ezinoncedo just help someone feel better about depression. So kubalulekile understand by depression alone. Yeah. Depression, as Babes earlier, is like it's common. It's not specific just for you. Just even nabani na abanayo depression. Yeah. So funeka ukubalekile symptoms of depression funeka uzazi bazezi understand the symptoms of depression. Most of the time thinking positive. So try to do things ezawenza ube happy. Yeah, so wenza into ezakuvisa kamnandi amaxesha amaninzi. Utry ulungisa indlela olala ngayo. Ulungisa indlela olala ngayo. Go to bed same time. Lale ngexesha elinye olala ngayo. Uye kwindawo ezikuvisa kamnandi. Udibana nabantu abakwenza happy. Uyayazi mos uba ngubani mhlawumbi umuntu othetha naye qhubeka ndithethe nobani uvisa kamandi, so uyayazi uba funeka uyodibana naye. So nasefemelini ufumanisa kukho umuntu osupportive in the family, so you must talk to that person in the family. So irregular physical activities, you can go to the gym, udlala sport if umuntu sport, uthethe ngezinto ezikuvisa kamnandi nawe. Wenza izinto nawe uqonda uba zizakwenza uve kamnandi uzokwazi usolve ii-problems odibana nazo. But if yabonakala uba yinto seyixakile, then you can go and visit nurse, doctor, ufumane uncedo lunjalo community ke mhlawumbi kwindawo ekufutshane. If ke kuyacakile into yoba yinto efuna i-medication, udoctor ke nonesi ke baza kunceda. Depression sometimes we community, as Caroline said, it's about once they give someone a stigma because of depression. So ngaba ngawaphi amanye amagama mhlawumbi enikeni wabo mhlawumbi ekuhlaleni, mhlawumbi ufumanisa uba amagama negative abantu ababizwa ngawo ekuhlaleni, mhlawumbi abantu abane-problem yoba depressed. Although amanye ke beniwachazile, but ayamentionwa ke ngabanye uba akakho 100%. It's just an additional because amanye ke beseniwa.
Have you, so I'm going to be bluntly, have you heard of any other words in your community for people like this?
That are not you.
That he doesn't mention, because you're not going to, the family doesn't see this. Remember, the family doesn't see this.
Yeah.
You're seeing this as facilitator, so put on your family hat. And that facilitator says, families, are there any other words that you've heard in the community? Yeah. Thank you. So people say these words, and then you say, how do you think it would make you feel if that was you? So I'm writing those down. I'm writing all those words down, and then I say, how would that make you feel? Families, how would that make you feel if you heard those words?
It would make me feel sad.
Yeah.
Knowing that I'm not happy.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that part of reaching our hopes and dreams is that
so it's trying to change.
Yeah.
them.
So part of us reaching our hopes and dreams is us protecting our community from those hurtful words. And hopefully you all can be in charge. You all can be leaders. You all can go in the community and make sure that we're not using words like that because they're hurtful. And everyone, I'd like you to also look inside your session 2 booklet now. And inside there is information on treatments of depression. So also if you want to go home and read about that tonight, along with what we've talked about, that's a really great way to prepare yourself and to prepare your family and to prepare your community to get help. Well done, everyone. And now we go into the impact of depression on families.
Okay. So i-depression ingane-impact kakhulu kwi-family zethu. So kubalulekile into yoba siyiqwalasele into enjalo. So ingaba mhlawumbi ndicinga uba xa kukho i-depression okanye mandithi umzali une-depression, ndicinga uba mhlawumbi ingayi-affecta njani ifemeli yakhe.
Uyela back to laa nto ye-bad communication. Because mos xa ine-depression ufila sad and angry. So kuba nzima uba makakhommunicate nabanye abantu ngohlobo lurayithi. So anganantsika angashawutisi and then the family nayiphele ingekho health. Neza negative thoughts zakhe. Because ilizwe masolubona like njengento eseyitshile uba iba ngathi kuyanetha oko soloko kukubi kude. So nabantu around bona kuba negative ngolo hlobo.
Ntoni mhlawumbi enye?
Noba mhlawumbi if uphele kaloku esebenzisa utywala, because mos abanye abantu xa bene-depression bendapha besebenzisa ii-drugs okanye alcohol. So usebenzisa ezo zinto might affect ifemeli kuba mhlawumbi bungengomntu oqhele usebenzisa. So xa useleyo mhlawumbi ungabikho rayithi ebantwaneni ifemeli yakho, so iafektana nabantwana.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well done. How else will it affect the family?
Yeah.
What else might we see?
I think if it becomes suicidal, they lose the member of the family.
And what else do you think will happen to families or parents that are affected by depression? Will they be doing their normal household chores?
They'll neglect
No,
it.
neglection.
Right. So what's really important to remember is that when you see this, it might not be because it's a lazy mother. It might be because she's not feeling well.
Yeah. So the part where you said we need to refer to the third session 2, is there anything that says that on there?
There is. It's in there. So it says, right above question 8, it says, give out evidence-based treatments on depression. That's in the session 2 booklet. We can make some notes of that if you want to, but basically every time it says hand out something, that's in the session 2 booklet. It's in the manual. I'll show you. Mulaki, can you keep going?
Yeah, so kuyanyanzeleka ke umuntu abe nomuntu athetha naye xa depressed. So kuyanyanzeleka more especially abantwana naske umntana abe nomuntu athetha naye okanye mhlawumbi nawe ke njengomzali funeka umuntu ube nomuntu othetha naye utrustileyo. So it's part of i-take home fun. So nigodwe njengabazali umuntu abuye ebhale umntu amaziyo uba uthetha naye xa ne-problem. Umuntu uyazi uba xa uthethe naye ufila kamandi nawe, so uyaku-understanda qho xa une-problem uyakuye. So uzawubhala amagama obo bantu eziphathe take home fun, i-phone numbers person ekusapotayo nee-phone numbers zabo. So by next week nizawuza naloo magama nabo bantu. Yeah.
So sibhala nje amagama wabo ne-contacts.
Yeah. Bhala igama lomntu nee-phone numbers that the person that you feel comfortable ukuthetha naye, so expressa zonke into ofuna uziexpressa. Ingaba mhlawumbi ndicinga uba umntu xa ene-stress unida ntoni?
Support.
Yeah. So So it goes back, you know, with that session 1, this is mentioned, like as our hopes and dreams, like his strength is family. So if Nina something, you know, it's where we need our to save and we just find depression and stress. So as Babu Chilo, depression can shut down communication. So which means depressed, communication is about poor. Because communication is right, right. So most of the time it affects abazali. Ufumana umntana mhlawumbe uzo-express i-feeling yakhe. Mhlawumbe uzofika uyachaza uba andiphathekanga kakuhle esikolweni. Mhlawumbe uyabhulishwa umntana, ungambhulisha esikolweni. Then uyafika uzoripotela umzali wakhe uba uyambhulisha esikolweni, but ufumana umzali unale problem ye-depression. So communication obviously ayizoba right kuyo. So now if umntana is not getting help, the family is going outside. Ufumana otishara ngabangekho right because abafumani help in the family, so might go outside and get someone who can help them. So the problem is all of the depression. There's something else?
Yeah, so you guys are doing great. So in your manual, if there's not a lot of discussion, in these little quote boxes, you see these little quotes. Basically, if people are silent in the room, these quote boxes are what real parents said to us. So if you're in like a silent room, you can actually say, you know what parents said about this, and you can read the quote. Those were real quotes from parents here in South Africa talking about depression. So that's a way to deal with silence in the room. All right, so let's just stand back and talk about this session. This session is unlike the other sessions. This is a lot of teaching. Normally our sessions are not like this. But the reason this session has a lot of teaching is because families don't know. So this module starts off with a ton of teaching, and then we begin to ask questions. Does this apply to your family? And it will. Like everyone in the room has been screened for eligibility. So you're like, so let me first tell you about it. Let me teach you about it. And then, does it apply to you? How does it affect your family? Tell us how. How does it feel to be called these names? Tell us why that feels bad. And then here are some things you could do with your family. Remember our iMessages? Let's practice that, because that's even more important if your family's struggling with mental health. So you go back and you build on session 1. Does that make sense? To give them confidence. So the next thing so basically what happens in the room is that you want to end with a couple of things. At this point, now that families heard about depression, you might want to ask them, does anybody want to share an experience that they've had in their family with what we're talking about? It could be an aunt, an uncle, it could be yourself, it could be a neighbor, and talk about how that's affected them. And oftentimes families will share one story. And then you say to them, thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's important for us to know that this affects 3 families out of 10 in South Africa. This is common. We shouldn't be ashamed of it. The most important thing to remember is that knowledge is power. Now you can know what this is. I want you to also reassure your children. Figure out a way to explain this to them. Reassure them that just because someone in their family, it could be you or a loved one, is experiencing this, doesn't mean that they're going to get it too, but you have to talk about it. Now, remember in week 1, we asked you to go home with your take-home fun, and we asked you to think about the topics that you might want to talk about in your family meeting. You know, I think we've talked about a lot of really difficult things here today as parents. You can decide for yourself, because this program is about your family and your journey. But if something that you want to talk about in the family meeting is how depression might be affecting your family, you might want to put that into your family plan for the family meeting, which will happen in week 4. But it's up to you. Why don't you go home and think about it? The most important thing that I want you to take away from this session is I want you to know that we cannot suffer in silence. If you're struggling, and if your child's struggling and you see these symptoms of depression in them, you have to get help. Early is better, and you should talk about it. You should tell them that what they're feeling, you want to support them and help them. The silence is what will kill us. So we must talk about it. That's the most important thing I want you to take away from this session together. Okay, so we're going to go back and be with our teens now to continue our fun together with our families. So I'm going to just leave the room for a second and check on how the teens are doing, and then we'll come back together. Okay, so that's kind of how that ends. Okay, so so basically at the same time, remember we did communication, then we split off. So parents, you were in this room doing mental health. Now pretend Muleki is the teenager facilitator and you guys are the teenagers. So Muleki was going to say, like, now teens, we're going to go to our room and we're doing this. So this is what's going to be happening. So we're going to go for another 25 minutes before lunch. Muleki is going to do the intro to the teen session only. This is happening at the same time, only with teens. And you can do this with your eyes closed. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, njengoba ke sohlukene ngokwabazali bangabe thina silapha njengabantwana, just unikhumbuza nje i-session 1 wethu niyakhumbula ngosibesenzelweni.
Yeah, sakhumbula.
Isayikhumbule roadmap about your hopes and dreams. Just if ningakwazi uyithela nijonge kwi-session 1 wethu. Yeah. So now, as our hopes and dreams now, is connector their values, which is imfundiso okanye into eziqalisekileyo kuthi. So kule sessions senza loo nto siziconnecta nazo. Ii-values zethu bezizwe zisigayidayo intoba yeyiphi into right, yeyiphi wrong. So yes, yeah. Okay, it's basically. That's fine. So, ingaba mhlawumbi ke zintoni ezintathu eninonika zona ezinenza nibe happy. General, izinto wena ezintathu eninonika zona ngoba zikwenza ufile kamandi ube ngoba yani siva kamandi yonwaba.
Mama beniphe imali.
Okay. So mama ukunika imali enye.
Udlala ibhola neetshomi zam.
Udlala ibhola neetshomi zakho. Yeah. So niyazibhala ke zanto phaya ngosikhaya ngokubomba ixesha thina sizawuqhuba njalo. Then another question ke into yoba zeziphi izinto ezintathu okanye iimpawu apho zeziphi iimpawu oziqaphelayo kumhlobo onyanisekileyo okanye kwi-true friend. Zeziphi iimpawu uqonda yayo bona lo mhlobo wam ngumpedo wam ngumsenyongweni leyo. So zintoni ozijongayo phaa kuyo?
Ukumamela xa unengxaki hlekise ngayo ndinayigcina cebisa ndingangathethi ngako abanye abantu.
Yeah. So umamela kayine-problem. So uyamamela kayinengxaki.
Ayihlonipha abazali bakhe.
So kayihlonipha abazali bakhe.
Naxa ekunzima.
Respect.
I didn't catch that one, sorry.
Yeah.
Good.
Learning,
Oyithanda imfundo. Oyithanda ukufunda.
likes reading books or education.
You don't have to translate, so the idea is that one of you is writing and one of you is facilitating. That's the idea. Okay, good.
Yeah. So, can you help me finish a sentence? So that the sentence came. True friend made me feel so umhlobo onyanzekileyo ndenza ndizive.
Well done.
Enye umhlobo onyanzekileyo ndenza
True friends make me
ndizive.
feel cool.
Motivated. Excited. Loved.
Okay. So xa sithetha ngoku nge-true friend, zindoni zeziphi iimpawu oziqwalaselayo isendibuze yam question?
Yeah.
Okay. So bayiphinde. So bendichazile uba ukwenza into yoba ube ne-confidence, ukwenza ufile safe, ukwenza feel good about yourself. So you're not afraid about uthethe naye nge-problems. Problems you share. Uyamtrusta yonke into ofuna uyithetha naye. So ngumntu okwazi into yoba xa wenze i-mistake niyakwazi ulungisana. Akathi xa wenze i-mistake ufumanisa uba uyakugxeka instead of ukulungisa. So kunjalo. So i-true friend okanye umhlobo onyanisekileyo ungumzekelo we-caring relationship. So which means funeka ube ngumuntu okhathalelayo lonke ixesha. It's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so ndicinga uba zeziphi izinto ezinonenza nihlale ni-strong kwaye umntu ahlale futhi eqinisekile ngesiqu sakhe. Noba mhlawumbi ufilisha i-pressure i-peer pressure ufumanisa uba ndifuna ukwenza le nto yenziwa ngazitshomi zam okanye le nto yenziwa ngabantu ndifana nabo. So zintoni ezinokwenza ube strong ufumanisa uba hayi zahlala ndingubani mna. Zintoni into anozenza?
Ukuzazi kahle ubungubani. And yozazi ubungubani isuke ebazalini bethu. Like i-support oyifumana kubo, like uba basoloko bekhumbuza uba kwenziwa ngolu hlobo and kwenziwa ngolu hlobo. Because sometimes ungathi uba i-friend yakho i-right, but ungayiboni kuba unalaa nto engqondo uba i-right, ungayibona xa ilahlekisayo. If umameni parents then uyihamba nje.
Yeah.
So support from
Yeah. So now i-communication iyaphinda intoba ibe yipart yayo. So we've learned about to talk about communication, how we can talk with our parents about communication. So kubalulekile intoba assertive communication when you refuse or resist with a friend, with peer pressure.
You guys remember those iMessages?
Yeah.
And if you know, I always forget. So what I like to do is I like to open my booklet. It's on page 14 of session 1 booklet.
Yeah.
If you want to open it up and remind yourself, it's right there for you. This isn't a test.
Yeah. Yeah. So as Caroline said, there's iMessages about how you feel. And when you talk about assertive communication, with confidence, if you say no, it's no. Yeah, so this is just So now,
It's always good now when as a facilitator to go back to session.
yeah, you must refer. That's why we said they are connected. These sessions,
Yeah.
You are prepared from session 1,
Until
2.
session 4.
Yeah. So the families reach session 3 already prepared. Because you're preparing them from session 1. Yeah. So now we'll split into 2 groups.
We'll play.
You must be home. Are we here? Is it teenagers?
Yeah,
We're still
teens.
teenagers.
Yeah,
Oh,
teens.
Teenagers.
I'm not with parents
Oh, it's the
anymore.
teenagers.
Yeah, I would be
So now you're gonna come up with the best ways to resist peer pressure.
Best way.
So it will depend which group we're gonna come up with the best way. So it's like a competition. So we'll see which group is gonna come up with the best ways of resisting the peer pressure. Give them a scenario, a list, make it
The best ways to resist peer pressure.
So as Muleki was generating questions from you guys on what are peer pressure situations, he's writing them down. So let's pretend let's do a list, right? So teenagers will give you the list. So guys, what did we say the situations were? This is a list of let's say at a party drinking. What are other things that we said could be scenarios where you might feel pressure? Sex from boyfriend. No condoms. This probably won't come up, but it might. What else? Smoking. DACA.
Alcohol.
Okay, drinking.
Yeah.
Cutting school. Okay, so basically, you don't create this, they create it for you.
Yeah.
And then, you're like, let's have a little competition. Now that's rule, let's have a little competition. Okay.
Yeah. So how you resist this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they make the situations,
Yeah.
and then you explain, go off this list. So take us through the explanation one more time. You've made this list, and then you tell us the game. What's the game? You put it into 2 groups. It's a competition.
Yeah.
Do you give them an example, or do they understand?
Best ways to resist peer pressure.
So what's really important about this, guys, remember?
Just to make an example.
Yeah. So what's really important, they might not understand, but this is where we get to actions, right? It doesn't work for Muleki to be like, this is how you resist peer pressure. They must do it.
Yeah.
So
They
if
must-
they're stuck, you can give examples. So Muleki,
Yeah.
can you give us an example?
Okay, this one.
Yeah, pretend you're the group. Give us an example, because they might not know.
Yeah. So maybe you are in the party, for example, and someone trying to offer you a dark. So how can you resist that? And your friends, all of them. They
So
are-
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna make it up. All right, I'm gonna be like, no, I'm cool because I have cigarettes with me. That's not a great answer, but it might work for them. I'm gonna be like, no, I'm cool because I'm actually smoking cigarettes tonight. I'm gonna smoke my Lucy tonight. So, okay, the point is that you're not criticizing them. You're making them figure out what works for them. It's not a perfect answer, but it's better than smoking DACA. Okay, that's cool. Well done. He says, well done. Okay, so guys, it's a competition between the 2 groups. So if your group can write down or remember all the things, we'll see how many points you have compared to that group.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to, or you can say it, because they might not like to write.
And you choose one scenario, right?
So, yeah,
Yeah. For now, we're gonna choose this one.
party drinking?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm ready. We're going to come up with a lot. Okay.
So say that.
So what are we doing?
So we're gonna the teenagers are in the group. We're the teenagers, and you're getting the teenagers are sitting in the group, and they're competing with this group of teenagers to figure out the things they could say or do that would let them avoid drinking.
Okay.
I want to start.
I love that one.
I would say to my friends, I'm taking medication. Having drinking makes me feel sick.
Say you only drink whiskey.
Yeah. So like you avoid it by saying the thing that I do drink as much.
Oh.
Yeah.
Only drink something that's not there.
Yeah, something that's not big. Only drink. I know people who only drink
Drinking
coffee.
is not good for me. Is my parents.
Maybe the one is
the
about
parents on
You really think they would say that?
I don't know.
They wouldn't say that. They wouldn't say that. Here's what I think they would say. They'd be like, well, my mom
And maybe
smells my
because
breath.
you feel like
when
it's
I come
peer
home.
pressure,
She'll know
maybe
I'm
you have to be
drinking.
honest with them
You
and tell them
trouble.
like how
They
your
might say
actions
that.
make you feel.
Okay, you
Like
try
be
it.
honest about how you feel.
I don't want to get dry because I might get raped.
Okay, that's a perfect reason, right? Like it's like that's their reason. It feels natural to them. That's real.
Because
just
then I
being-
get sleep.
So basically, they're beating us. I can hear.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
more
nice.
you can see competition, the
Maybe I
better
see-
it is.
Okay.
Okay, so do you see, like my excuses are lame. They are. Like I'm an adult.
It's good to
Similar to
know.
you.
Yeah.
You must let them do it. If it was not perfect, you
My
must let them
parents-
do it.
You know who my
Well,
father
let me
is.
do they?
Um.
Do you move them on to different scenarios, or do you just stop at the
You
first
know
one?
my grandkids.
Should you be like, time, let's move on to the next scenario? How do you do it?
So, we just gave them one,
Yeah.
Yes.
then they do it, and then they come together.
Cool, okay, let's take us through that now, take us through that. Okay, good job, team.
So I see that you've done well. Let's see which group.
And Bulaki, do we get prizes, facilitators?
Yes, you're gonna
Oh,
get it.
great,
You remind me
okay.
of something. We'll see.
I think we're gonna beat this group.
We've got like 10.
Ooh!
Oh,
It's all here. We know it. We already know, but we know it.
Yeah, guys.
We can give you examples, Mr.
Okay,
Mulaki.
just give an example.
Okay,
And make sure that they are more than 10 because I see that.
no, it's cool.
It's fine, it's fine.
He's making it fun.
But we've got more on our
Share,
Okay,
share.
so I'm not
So
gonna-
what you're gonna do, you're gonna tick if you have the same
Ah,
you beat
that's
them.
fine.
Yeah, so he's gonna make a
So
little tick
I'm not
list.
gonna drink because I might get raped if I'm too drunk.
Okay.
I'm not gonna drink because my mom smells my breath when I come home. I'm gonna get in huge trouble.
Okay.
What is the other?
I'm not gonna drink because I'm taking some medication and the drinking makes me feel really sick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, we only had 3. Okay. So he's encouraging. He's like, wow, those are good.
Yeah,
Look
they are
really
very
good,
good.
though,
See,
yeah.
this group, I see they come with good points. Yeah, it seems now they
Go guys.
we will see. Okay, over to you, group B.
You avoid friends. Like, you avoid them.
Okay.
You avoid them at the
No,
party.
guys, how do you avoid this? Yeah,
I'll be back, I'll be back, and then you leave.
That debate's awesome, right? You wanna that's cool.
You leave, you just leave your
So in
party.
other words, you just leave the party.
You tell them I'm going to the trailer quickly.
I'll be back.
Oh,
Okay, that's
that's a good
good.
way.
Another
Thanks,
one.
people.
You be honest about it and say no.
I do that
Just
myself.
be honest about
That
how
would
you
never work. That would never work for me.
But it will work for me. Like you have to.
What if I tell you like, you're being a
Remember the assertive communication. Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, be honest.
Or you say that you only drink something that's not there. So if there's champagne, you say no, I only drink whiskey.
Okay. So
That's a
really
nice
good.
one.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
it's
We'll like do that one. You saw how to do it, right?
yeah.
It's a competition. He's using fun. If they debate it, it's cool.
That's one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your free ones.
Oh, okay.
Let me see if what I can give you.
Oh, is that the small one? Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
For participation.
Yes.
So I feel like it depends on budget.
Yeah, and I do
But
give
we'll
out
see.
participation.
No, so we'll show you in demonstration session 1, but there's thank you tokens.
Yeah.
That's given out, it's just paper.
Paper.
Yeah, we'll do it, okay.
Yeah.
Keep going, Lucky.
Okay. We continue with that one, or we doing another thing?
We should move on
Yeah.
Okay, because of time.
because of time.
Yeah.
So guys, we're transitioning, we're like talking about peer pressure,
Yeah.
assertive communication, now we're moving into a trickier relationship, romantic relationships, assertive communication.
Yeah. So now we're gonna talk about the relationships, romantic relationships.
Woo!
Yeah, the teens are doing like that. So we mentioned about a true friend. So now we are doing a romantic relationship. So what qualities and characteristics of an ideal future
Husband.
partner?
Mm.
Charming. Good looking.
Money.
Teenagers.
Look,
Hot.
Money.
I said hot.
Money.
Yeah. I said a car. All those things.
Clothes.
You guys have a job.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you for that. So these characteristics, do you think are the same or different from the
They're totally
true
different.
friend?
So before he does that, so you notice that they'll generate a lot of stuff that's
Yeah.
actually not about the person.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay guys, that's really good, but let's talk about the inside of the person. What's a true partner? What's the inside of a partner? So some of these things you guys said, okay, so like totally, okay, hot, maybe that is like a characteristic. Charming. What's the inside of the person? What are true partners?
Caring.
Caring.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. So you don't want to discourage them by not putting the stuff up, you want to move them in the right direction.
Yeah.
What else? What else?
Supportive.
Supportive. Okay.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Loving. Ooh. Honest.
Yeah.
Honest. Okay, so you like move them along.
Yeah.
Very good. And then he goes.
Oh,
Yeah. So as I was asking, so this the characteristics or the qualities are different from the true friend. Do you think are different?
no, bro.
The first few attitudes.
And loving. I don't know if my friend would love me.
And
Maybe.
charming. Yeah, that's a different charming.
But some are the same, I guess.
Don't you want your partner to be your friend?
I do, but
But he must also look after me.
I guess I want some stuff to be the same and some stuff to be different.
yeah.
So they're thinking about it. There's no right or wrong answer. They're
Yeah,
thinking about it.
yeah.
Good.
So you remember when you talk about the true friend, about they make you have the confidence and make you feel safe, make you feel good about yourself, don't afraid or pressure to do anything. For example, your partner must not force you to have sex.
Please.
Yeah, so forgive if you make a mistake. Yeah. So as you said, it's very important when we have the intimate partners, you must have a caring relationship. So you must have someone who gonna care for you. Yeah. Okay.
Because you deserve it.
Yeah.
You deserve it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think same applies even a friend must care for you. Not when you make mistake they judge you. So it's like a partner. So how do you know if you are in a caring relationship?
You are listened to kilometers.
My boyfriend asked me how my day was.
Okay. So
You feel
every day.
comfortable around.
Wow. Okay.
They give me money. Sometimes it's not quite right. You're like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes they will think by getting money they can, you know.
It's okay to accept some of those things. You want them to think about it.
Yeah.
That's the
We
point.
do things together. Almost together.
Ooh.
Candy.
She cooks for me.
Yeah. So some of the other things, encouraging each other,
Yeah.
encouragement, you supporting each other,
Yeah.
yeah, and being honest,
Yes.
yeah, so that you can trust each other if you are honest. So there are different partners.
And then Malaki is also going to say, also when you're ready.
To have sex.
You are intimate when you feel safe and it's right for you. It's important to say
Yeah.
that because you're going to introduce sex in the next session, so you want to introduce it.
Yeah. Okay.
So good, sorry. Keep going.
Okay.
And then different types of partners.
We have there are different types of partners and also different types of risk behaviors. Here are all sorts of different types of intimate relationships.
First.
Yeah. So, can you give me any types of relationships that you know?
A blesser.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, Benny.
So you're gonna write it down
So
there.
he's writing it down.
Yeah.
They'll give you a lot.
Yeah, they'll give us a lot. So it's
Yeah.
really fun.
Yeah.
Really
They're
fun.
enjoying, and I know.
And then he
enjoying.
goes to the, okay, let's just write it. Well, I'm gonna write the list down. And then what do you do with the list, Malaki?
Sugar mamas.
So my thing at this point is like when they introduce things that other people don't know about, like
Yeah.
like say Roland Secret Soft.
They love
They love
they love this
Minister of
activity.
Finance.
Minister of Finance.
We'll keep that list.
Yeah, and then he,
The following question, so
Okay.
we'll ask the unequal or unhealthy relationships.
okay.
So-
Unequal,
so-
like,
so-
that's good one. There's key
So
terms.
they will choose on the list which one is unequal
Take us
or
through, take us
unhealthy.
through,
So,
like, really do.
yeah, so which one do you think is,
What's the
What's
first one?
wrong
Oh,
with-
let's do some positive ones, because these
yeah,
are.
because that's why I'm stuck now. That's why I'm stuck, I hate this one.
Who has been the first wife?
Love.
Yes.
Like hi.
I love the first
I don't know
wife.
the
Okay, and then Malaki goes through the list.
Okay.
Pasties.
Yes.
So, in-
Ooh,
on this-
I will unequal sugar
Nah,
mama.
sugar mama.
This one.
Ooh. Sugar mama, unequal.
Okay.
Do you mark them? Do you mark them, right?
Mark.
What?
Yeah, he marks them
Underline.
unequal.
Oh.
So unequal when you do this.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh.
Okay.
Cuckoo sticker.
Yeah, I mean,
What's
What is that?
What's
What's
that?
sticker? What's that?
I think when-
It's kind of like sex. It's all
When
about sex.
someone
Just, you
doesn't have
just sticker.
sex,
Yeah.
Just like you just sticker with sex.
and it
Unequal.
it cannot even one partner when
Yeah.
you cook stick.
Unequal.
And
Roll on.
Roll on.
Unequal.
I'm hiding you.
Boyfriend.
Boyfriend.
Maybe. Equal.
Maybe. Maybe.
It depends on the age.
Lovebird. Equal.
Oh.
Pie. Mm.
Depends. Your
Depends.
sugar mama might call you a pie.
Depends, but mostly equal, right?
My sweetie pie.
Okay.
So they love this activity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Which of these questions should
Exactly.
I want to be on Roland. So people may say that, and you're like, oh, okay.
Do we ask them why? Is my
Yeah.
That do we love justifications?
So you get them to talk a little bit about it, right? So let's let Malaki do it.
Yeah. So, which of these relationships would you want to be?
I
Like
think
to
that
bless her.
So he doesn't judge.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
doesn't judge.
Bless her. So why you want to bless her?
Because I want to be smart.
Wow.
So I can be money.
Anyone?
Yeah, I'm still young, so I want to be on the boyfriend side.
Okay.
I want to be someone's cherry pie.
Wow, why?
Because they love me and they treat me like I'm special, and I am.
Wow.
Like a cherry pie. So yeah, then you get them to think about that, right?
Okay.
Okay, good. Let's
Yeah.
move on to the photocomic.
Yeah. So I think the best way of thinking about a good partner is like think about a pie. Yeah. So you will see on your handouts there are different types or so in a pie you have ingredients, different ingredients. So it will depend from you which one do you like. So even in a partner, there are things that you look for in a partner. Yeah. So it's like that when you're doing when you're looking for a good partner. Yeah. So we like different pies. So in a partner, we like different things. Yeah.
So Mullucky, don't you get them to fill it out at this point? In the session 2 book, don't they write out their ingredients in the pie? Yeah.
That's what you can say.
So we
Yeah,
like
they
write
can,
out.
yeah, write down.
So you need to prompt them. Take out your booklet, write out the things that you want in your pie.
We all like different pies, so my pies.
Yikes.
Steak and mushroom.
Okay, that's cool. I thought you meant you like to have different pies. I said, I don't know how to answer that. Because they're like, basically you get them to write things out, right?
Yeah.
And
So,
then he brings it.
so now we're gonna read the comic about a young couple named John and Jenny. So it's there. Yeah. And they also enjoy that part because we allow them to read.
Mullucky, can you show us how you get each of them to read it? Show
Yeah.
us.
So that we can participate, all of us. Maybe one is gonna be John, and the other one is gonna be Jenny, and the other one is gonna be one of the friends, and also the other one of the.
Yeah, so you get them to volunteer, so you don't want to put them on the spot in case their English reading isn't good. You get them to volunteer.
Yeah.
Great, I'll be the girl.
I'll be John.
Oh, you be John? You be John, you be the girl. Okay, and then I'll be a friend.
Okay.
Mama John.
You.
Me.
Yeah.
So you
Hello,
go first,
go
right?
first then.
Hello, Jenny.
Thank you so much for the present. I can't believe we've already been going out for a month.
Yeah. I think it's time for us to take this relationship to the next level, you know?
Ooh. And the thinking couple? How do you do
I think she's
You should have sex.
Yeah, you
or
read it, you read it.
You should have sex.
He must love me and he's feeling comfortable so he can share his secrets with me. Does this mean he wants to meet my mom and dad?
Right, Jenny was thinking about something. Break time. Friend.
Yo, Janine, why do you look so happy?
John gave me this present for our 1 month anniversary. He's so sweet and he wants to take this relationship to the next level.
Other friend?
Oh.
What does he mean by the next level? He probably wants to sleep with you and you've only been going out for a month. Are you ready for that?
I don't know, I don't like him.
Oh, you're so lucky, Janine. So,
We need
Yeah.
3 friends. Just be careful. Just be careful you don't get pregnant or one of those STIs we learn about in LO. Now we need random friends.
Oh, there's a Joel tonight at Michael's house. His parents aren't there, so we can really party it up.
Hey, that's cool, but there.
At the party. Who's this?
Oh, sorry, this is the friend. This is guy friend. Hey, do you girls want some drinks? We've got some good stuff here.
Yeah, great.
No, thanks.
No, thank you. I don't want to drink now.
And the Mullucky's like, remember when you guys were practicing your peer pressure communication? he's like using this, right? Like and to like refer back. All right, guys, I don't think we should go through all of it.
Yeah.
They like this.
Yeah.
Let me give you the background to this.
Okay.
This cartoon was designed by South African teens, and it's meant to kind of be a gray line.
Yeah.
So like some aspects of the relationship are healthy and some aspects are not healthy. So there's like peer pressure, there's violence where he like grabs her arm, but it's not hitting. You know, so everything's meant to be gray. Like some good things, some bad things, some risky things, and some not risky things. And it's meant to be on the fence for a reason. Okay, and then he takes us through.
And here's a quick
So then Mulaki takes us through the discussion of the Comic-Con.
Okay. Have John and Jenny been dating a long time?
Okay, so like basically he starts with a soft question where it's like easy, right? And he takes you through all of it. We haven't read all of it, but the point is that the teens debate it. So
Yeah.
they're like, that's cool if he grabs her arm, that's not really hitting her. And then other teens are like, no, that's not cool. Well, Lucky, what else did teens do during the session that you want to share with them? Like what were teens' reactions to this?
From the first question.
Yeah, just in general in the discussion, all the questions. What were like some things that surprised you, or do you think it worked well?
Especially with the boys.
Especially with the boys.
Another thing that was interesting is the long term of relationship, the long time. Others they said it's a month, others said 5 years. so it was different for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the questions are here for a reason. You have to go through them. Like their questions are meant to like get them to think about violence, about sex, about relationships. There's not really a right or wrong answer. You don't want to correct them and be like that's wrong, but it's to get them to think about it. So you have to go through those questions. The most important piece is question 12, which is tying it to the hopes and dreams session in session 1. So Mulaki, ask question 12 to us.
Did any of their decisions put them on course towards achieving hopes and dreams?
So the point of that is that like you have asked them in session 1 to talk about hopes and dreams, their hopes and dreams, and so they're trying to put themselves, Mulaki's trying to get the kids to put themselves in John and Janine's shoes. To be like, if I was in their shoes, would that put my hopes and dreams off course?
Yeah, since we did the hopes and dreams in session 1, yeah. So now I just want to see that according to this, what we read about John and Jenny, did any of their decisions put them on course towards achieving hopes and dreams?
But you did not get to that.
Yeah, so I'll answer.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like if John was willing to grab my arm at a party, then he might be willing to hit me. So actually, I don't really want to be with John. I actually don't think John will be a true partner.
Yeah.
He's not going to be my lovebird forever. Okay, so like that's kind of how people, he might be my, yeah.
So in other words, John can't make you fulfill your hopes and dreams.
No, it's gonna take me off course of my dreams.
And so this is like a little bit of the discussion of the pie. So then we say to them,
Think about the traits that she wants in a partner, the things that you saw that she wants.
and we talk about the cherry pie. So we say, so guys, remember the cherry pie? Sometimes you may have all the right ingredients, but the egg is rotten. It'll ruin the whole pie. So maybe John's perfect. He's handsome, he's got a job, he's got clothes, he's charming, he's hot. But he hurts me. He hurts me. And that can ruin the pie. Try to make it kind of like work for them.
Yeah.
Carrie, I'm gonna let you.
Okay. So we're preparing them.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it's very important is so that when they come next week, they know what they will talk about. Yeah. So you also give them tasks so that the first one, I think they must ask they must write down the questions that they're afraid to ask to their parents about sex. Yeah. Yeah, take home fun in the handout.
Yeah. I'll bring that up while you keep going.
Okay. So I think it's what we enjoy. So you are free to write what is in your mind, so that we will see what you are afraid to ask, maybe about sex, birth control, condoms, anything that is related about sex. Yeah. So you can just write down those questions. The second one, I want you to do for your take home is to tell us. Don't you think this one it's repeating the one that I already mentioned at the second one?
No, it's not repeating, because the first one's about their actual questions, and the second one's about what are they most afraid to tell their parents about these questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Muleki, he's like telling them, take out your brochure, let me show you where this is. This is what I want you to work on and why, so that you're ready for next week.
Okay. I think the last one is it's also exciting. You can do something for your parent as a gift, and don't tell, or maybe you can just tell your parent, because I will ask your parent what your child do for you as a gift. So next week I will find out from your parents what you did for them, but make sure that you tell them this is your gift.
Muleki, what do kids do? What were some examples of what kids did?
Others they said they paid for their
Or
parents.
they did something?
Others they make some tea, and then because they said we are not usually make tea.
Yeah.
Others they clean the house
So it can be
when
free.
they come back. So the parents when you come back from work they come with a surprise. The house is clean, and then they told them that it's a gift that they give to you. Yeah.
Cool. All right, and then there's a session 4 booklet that's a family session. So we say like, maybe you learned about something this week where you wanted to talk about that in your family session. Maybe what you want to talk about is sex.
Yeah.
Write that down in your family session booklet.
Yeah. So some of the things you can just write down the question that you want to ask, so that you can talk about in the family meeting. So in the family meeting, it will be the parent and the child.
So guys, don't avoid that, because session 4 can be really hard for you to facilitate if they've not done the booklet. So each week you're getting them to think about it and writing it, and you're checking that. Because honestly, if they come to you in session 4 with an empty booklet, you're screwed. Like you're like really in trouble. Seriously,
It's like
you'll have nothing
it's like
to talk about.
you're gonna start from session 1.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't want that to happen. You need to like open the booklet, show them where it is, check it the following week. Well done.
Thanks.
All right, guys, let's break for lunch.
Okay.
We've got 1 hour for lunch, so we come back at 1:40. We're gonna tie off the session. It's really fun. It's a really fun activity to tie off session 2, and then we're gonna demonstrate session 3 before we leave today.